Gentleman yields back. Mr. Cohen, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, also known as the ILJA, also known as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill, also known as the Biden Infrastructure Bill, I'd prefer to call it the Biden-Cohen Bill, has provided an unprecedented opportunity to modernize our rail system, strengthen our economy, and improve connectivity for millions of Americans. One program I'd like to highlight is the Corridor Identification and Development, also known as the Corridor ID program, which has awarded $500,000 to study the feasibility of a passenger rail corridor connecting Memphis to Nashville and then on to Chattanooga and to Atlanta. This Sunbelt Atlantic connector will connect major population centers, fostering economic growth and reducing traffic congestion in our region. Tennesseans and Georgians alike are eager for the eventual completion of this project and hopefully can move to the next phase expeditiously. I also remain committed to enhancing the passenger experience on Amtrak. Mr. Garcia didn't mention the Amtrak service that goes through Memphis into New Orleans. And as a kid, I rode the Panama Limited in the city of New Orleans, and we went up to Chicago quite a few times and down to New Orleans as well. We've had great food on some of those, particularly the Panama Limited, and they had the best service, a Pullman train. But they had big, thick steaks and big, thick French toast, and they don't have that anymore. So I've introduced two bills, the Train Food Act and the Trains Eat Act, which aim to restore and improve onboard dining services on long-distance routes. I think would improve the experience and the ridership. When reauthorizing surface transportation programs for Amtrak, we must not neglect the passenger experience. Quality dining service is essential to attracting and retaining riders, making rail travel enjoyable and an alternative to driving or flying. Finally, I want to address a pressing issue in America and in Memphis, cargo theft. Unfortunately and sadly, Memphis, which has a large logistics hub and cargo, has seen cargo theft spike alarmingly in recent years, posing threats to businesses and supply chains. Addressing this problem is not just a local concern, it's a national concern, and I believe Mr. Jeffries, but even more so Mr. Baker, discussed trucks and your competition with trucks. Obviously, you don't like trucks. Trucks have 80% of the cargo theft, so you like that. But it's a great problem, and in Memphis we're trying to deal with it, and we need more solutions. Mr. Jeffries, the FBI has developed a task force composed of members of the U.S. Marshal Service, Memphis Police, Shelby County Sheriff's Office. What additional areas of collaboration could be established between freight railroads, law enforcement, and other stakeholders to enhance preemptive measures and effectively combat cargo theft on trains?
Well, thank you for highlighting that, and that's a priority of ours is making headway because not only is it an issue in Memphis, it's an issue across several parts of the country, and frankly, the epitome of interstate crime. It is a federal issue that we need federal attention to, and one of the most frustrating things we've seen is that, arrests are made and prosecutions don't occur, and that's why we're advocating, and hopefully this task force will draw some attention to getting some resources behind prosecutions and putting folks behind bars and moving up the chain, because this is absolutely an organized effort, the sophisticated effort, and railroads are investing on their own to increase deterrence, increase monitoring and vigilance, but it's going to take everybody working together because the problem's not going away. And we'll look forward to partnering with you on this.
Thank you. I know in the 1880s when Jesse and Frank were doing their job on the trains jumped into it and hired the Pinkertons. So you need to get the 21st century Pinkertons on this.
And if I may, Congressman, we certainly view trucks as our big competitors, but we would absolutely view we're on the same page as them on cargo theft issues. We would not wish theft on even our harshest competitors.
But if you had a choice.
Please stay away from the trains, yes.
Right. Mr. Jeffries, this corridor I talked about, Memphis on to Atlanta, could do a lot to improve congestion and the environment as well, reducing emissions. How can freight railroad partners work with passenger rail projects to advance these climate goals and equitable development?
So when we've seen these projects work well, of which there are numerous examples around the country, all stakeholders get together at the front end and sit down and talk about desired outcomes. And so that's the municipality, that's the state, that's the passenger entity, that's the affected freight railroad, and talk about, okay, what do we want to achieve? What capacity is necessary? What investment is necessary to ensure that capacity? And who's going to pay for it? And so,
I've got 4 seconds, and I
Yeah.
want to ask Mr. Cassidy something. You talked about the ultimate future and where we should look at transportation. Elon says it's Mars. Should we put all that money into planting a flag on Mars, or should we maybe do it somewhere like Memphis?
Thank you for the question. I mean, you know, I'm intrigued by the thought of going to Mars, but the reality is when we're talking about investments in taxpayer money, the investments here in the country, and the biggest benefit is moving them to where they need to go safely and efficiently. And there's no better opportunity than the railroad system. And high-speed rail, in my opinion, is the greatest opportunity for funding to do something meaningful for the people of America to make an impact on the economy and the infrastructure as a whole.
Thank you. Unless you're Ralph Cramden's wife, you're not going to the moon. Go back to the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields. Mr. Kennedy, you recognize.